The story begins in the shadowed, ancient halls of a palace that has witnessed centuries of drama, a place where whispers are often as significant as any official declaration. This is a story about a modern fracture within an institution that built its entire foundation on the idea of unbroken unity. Our focus rests on a relationship that has, over the last few years, become synonymous with conflict and profound public estrangement. This isn't merely about titles or protocols. It's about blood, ambition, and the immense pressure of public life when viewed through an almost impossible lens of global scrutiny. We arrive at a critical moment, one that offers a glimpse of something perhaps even more devastating than the open warfare we've seen. What lies behind the silence? What is the quiet, unspoken reality that has settled between two brothers who were once considered a single, unbreakable unit of the monarchy's future? The dynamic between Prince Harry and Prince William has been analysed to the point of exhaustion, yet each revelation seems to reveal another, deeper layer of pain. It is a modern tragedy, watched by millions, with every statement or subtle glance carrying the weight of historical consequence. The public knows the broad strokes of this saga. It knows of the memoirs, the explosive interviews, and the cinematic tell-alls. These events have created a very specific and highly volatile environment, shifting public perception and altering the internal landscape of the royal family forever. The public can vividly recall the moment the cracks first began to appear, the subtle signs that something was fundamentally wrong between the brothers. They remember the rumors of tension that quickly escalated into public statements, and then into the complete and total breakdown of communication. The image of the Fab Four, Harry, Meghan, William and Catherine, which was so recently the face of a modernized monarchy, now seems like a distant, almost impossible memory. What the public doesn't know, however, is the quiet, often heartbreaking reality of the silence that now dominates their lives. It's not just that they aren't speaking, it's the weight of that unspoken void. The story we are unfolding is not just another chapter in this saga, it is a critical turning point. It's a story that explores the complex emotions, the lingering regrets, and the desperate, perhaps unrealistic, hopes that still exist within this deeply fractured family dynamic. We will delve into the profound sense of loss that accompanies such a public estrangement, examining the impact not only on the individuals involved, but on the very institution they represent. The silence between these two brothers is more than just a lack of communication. It's a statement in itself, a reflection of the deep-seated issues that have yet to be resolved and perhaps are unresolvable. To truly understand this fractured relationship, one must look past the sensational headlines and into the human hearts involved. Every decision made, every word spoken, is weighted with a complex history and the constant pressure of public opinion. This report is not an investigation but a deep, empathetic exploration of a relationship that has come to define the modern monarchy. Before we continue on this journey, I want to extend a sincere thank you to our global community of viewers. Your dedication and engagement are what fuel our exploration into these significant royal events. It is your perspective that helps shape the narrative we present each week. We invite you to continue that journey with us by subscribing to our channel and sharing your insights. By becoming a subscriber, you ensure you never miss an installment of this unfolding story and join a community that values deep analysis over quick headlines. We look forward to hearing your thoughts as we continue. The current state of affairs between the brothers isn't simply a matter of differing opinions. It's the culmination of years of deeply felt hurt and a complete breakdown of trust. It's about the very real human consequences of public service when mixed with personal ambition and the unavoidable pressures of the world's stage. The path forward is uncertain, and the path back to what once was seems almost impossible. It's a story of choice, consequence, and the heavy price paid when personal lives are intertwined with the fate of a royal institution. In this modern context, the roles have shifted dramatically. Once a tight-knit pair, the brothers are now on separate paths, defined as much by their choices as by their estrangement. The global audience watched them grow up, navigated the complexities of their mother's tragic death, and now watches, with varying degrees of compassion and judgment, as they navigate the complexities of their adult lives. This modern story is the product of an unparalleled scrutiny, where every decision is dissected by royal commentators, analysed on social media, and ultimately judged by the world. It is the perfect storm of personal grief, professional duty, and public interest. The narrative has been written and rewritten so many times, yet this latest development suggests a shift in the wind, a quiet realization that may have profound implications for the future. The complexity of this relationship, combined with the weight of the institution they represent, creates a dynamic that is both intensely fascinating and deeply tragic. The world watches, waiting for a single sign of reconciliation, a moment that would suggest a softening of the hearts that have become so hardened. The quiet longing that has been reported, the hope that one would need the other, is a powerful reminder of the human connections that are often obscured by the veneer of royal duty. This story, then, is about the silence, the regret, and the unspoken hopes that exist in the space where a once unbreakable bond has shattered. This isn't simply a story about titles or palaces. It's about two men who are, at their core, defined by their shared history, their distinct choices, and the profound, palpable absence of each other. Behind the polished veneer of public appearances, a much more calculating and tense reality has taken hold within the royal family, bringing the deep-seated friction between the House of Windsor and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex into sharp focus. For years, the narrative surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has been one of defiance, a determined effort to carve out a massive independent media empire in the United States, completely free from the constraints of Palace protocol. They position themselves as global changemakers, utilizing high-profile platforms to tell their truth, critique the monarchy, and establish a commercial presence that could rival major entertainment entities. However, beneath the surface of this new California lifestyle, an entirely different story has been quietly developing. One characterized by profound professional dissatisfaction, shifting loyalties, and an increasing sense of isolation. The commercial reality of their exile has proven to be far more difficult and volatile than anyone could have anticipated, creating a highly stressful environment that has severely impacted their strategic operations. The initial burst of global interest that greeted their departure has gradually given way to the grueling, everyday demands of the Hollywood entertainment industry, a landscape notorious for its lack of sentimentality and its unrelenting focus on financial sustainability. Over the last few years, the Sussexes have watched as major corporate partnerships have dissolved or reached premature conclusions, forcing a radical and painful reassessment of their entire business model. At the height of their initial success, their operational infrastructure was robust, boasting a large team of dedicated professionals hired to execute their ambitious vision for media production and global philanthropy. Today, that infrastructure has shrunk significantly, a dramatic reduction that speaks volumes about the commercial pressures they are facing and the long-term sustainability of their current trajectory. Reliable sources indicate that their full-time staff has dwindled from an optimistic peak of 16 employees down to a mere handful, a contraction that forces them to rely on an incredibly small circle of advisors. This downsizing is not just a standard corporate restructuring. It is a clear reflection of a deeper operational crisis, raising urgent questions about their ability to generate the massive revenues required to maintain their high-security lifestyle and extensive property holdings. While they have undoubtedly secured sums of money that the average person could only dream of in a lifetime, the financial outgoings are astronomical, and the incoming revenue streams are no longer guaranteed to replenish those coffers. In the highly competitive and currently struggling environment of Hollywood, a production label cannot survive simply on the prestige of a royal connection. It requires a consistent output of critically and commercially viable content, a threshold that the Sussex operation has struggled to meet consistently. This commercial pressure has intensified the emotional weight of their estrangement from the United Kingdom, creating a complex mix of professional stress and personal longing that is becoming harder to ignore. Prince Harry, in particular, is said to be experiencing a profound and lingering sense of loss, a deep-rooted nostalgia for the community, the structured lifestyle, and the close friendships he left behind in his homeland. The initial excitement of freedom has been replaced by a quiet realization of what was sacrificed in the pursuit of independence, leaving him increasingly isolated in an environment where he has very few lifelong confidants. This emotional isolation has been compounded by a fascinating and deeply telling psychological dynamic regarding his brother, the Prince of Wales. Reports from those within their orbit suggest that Harry harbored a quiet, unspoken hope that Prince William would face significant struggles in his role, a scenario that might have prompted a desperate call for help and provided a natural, face-saving pathway back into the royal fold. This expectation was rooted in the long-standing understanding that the brothers would shoulder the immense burdens of the modern monarchy together, a partnership that was dismantled by Harry's departure. Yet, as the months have passed, the reality has defied those expectations. Prince William has not faltered under the weight of his responsibilities, but has instead flourished, firmly establishing his authority and charting a clear, uncompromising course for the future of the institution. This visible success has added a layer of quiet devastation to Harry's situation, as he is forced to watch from afar while his brother thrives independently, completely removing any institutional necessity for a reconciliation. The absolute finality of this divide became starkly apparent following the publication of Harry's memoir, a project that created an insurmountable barrier between the two men. While the public focus was largely on the sensational anecdotes, the true damage was done by the deeply personal critiques directed at the Princess of Wales, a line that William views as completely unforgivable. This personal betrayal has led to what can only be described as a permanent royal reset, a deliberate and calculated effort by William's team to entirely remove the Sussexes from any future plans for the monarchy. The communication channels have been completely severed, to the extent that when the Sussexes reached out with a public message of support following Catherine's health challenges, the gesture went entirely unreciprocated behind palace walls. From William's perspective, the immense stress that his family was subjected to during a period of acute personal vulnerability makes any current overtures feel hollow and untrustworthy. This total breakdown of communication highlights a fascinating contrast between the two brothers' current lives, one firmly entrenched in the future of a centuries-old institution, and the other navigating the unpredictable waters of independent celebrity. The tragedy of this division lies in its apparent permanence, with both sides dug into positions that offer very little room for compromise or mutual understanding. Harry is left to grapple with the long-term consequences of his public statements, reportedly regretting the scorched earth nature of the accusations, while still attempting to stand by the core of his personal truth. It is a highly complex emotional grey area where one can deeply regret the destructive results of their words without necessarily recanting the words themselves. This internal conflict is unfolding against a backdrop of starkly contrasting worldviews within his own household as the couple navigates their future path. While Harry's heart remains deeply tied to the United Kingdom and a desire to return to meaningful philanthropic work within a familiar community, Meghan's ambitions are firmly rooted in the high-stakes world of American commerce and lifestyle branding. She views her future through the lens of modern global success, focusing on building a distinct, independent identity that is completely separate from the traditions of the British monarchy. This fundamental divergence in their long-term desires creates an underlying tension, forcing them to balance two very different visions of a successful life while maintaining their strong personal bond. The world continues to watch this unfolding drama with intense fascination, dissecting every public move and subtle statement for signs of a shift. Yet, the reality remains a somber one, defined by a profound silence that speaks far louder than any public declaration, a clear indication that the rift within the House of Windsor has transitioned from a temporary crisis into a permanent, defining feature of the modern royal landscape. This permanent shift in the royal landscape is not merely a story of personal estrangement. It represents a fundamental reorganization of power and authority within the British monarchy itself. To fully comprehend why this divide matters, one must look at the profound structural changes currently occurring at the very heart of Buckingham Palace. The reality of the situation is that a quiet but decisive power struggle has been unfolding between the reign of King Charles and the shadow administration being steadily built by the Prince of Wales. When the king first shared his health challenges with the world a few years ago, a significant amount of operational authority naturally began to flow toward William's court. However, with the King's ongoing advanced medical treatments showing highly encouraging results, Charles has made a concerted effort to pull that authority back, asserting his position as the ultimate decision-maker. This internal friction was vividly on display at a recent high-profile family gathering, the wedding of Peter Phillips, which served as a fascinating microcosm of the competing philosophies governing the modern royal house. The king's vision for the monarchy on that day was one of traditional unity and compromise, a belief that family events should serve to heal old wounds and present a cohesive front to the public. Under his direct instruction, extended members of the family who have faced severe public scrutiny, such as Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, were prominently included, a decision that William privately viewed with immense concern due to ongoing reputational risks. William, operating with a strict military-like respect for his father's superior rank, dutifully complied with the king's wishes on the day, greeting his cousins with a polite public display of affection. Yet, almost simultaneously, his team was delivering an incredibly clear and uncompromising message to the media regarding how things will change when he eventually ascends the throne. This strategic briefing made it absolutely explicit that under William's future reign, the traditional perks of the monarchy will be radically dismantled, specifically targeting those who perform no official public duties by removing their right to live rent-free within royal palaces. This deliberate public positioning effectively signaled to the world that a change is coming, treating the current reign as a transitional period and firmly establishing William's vision as the definitive future of the institution. This uncompromising approach to duty and reputation helps explain the absolute finality of the wall that has been erected against the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. To understand the depth of this fracture, it is necessary to examine the vastly different backgrounds and psychological realities of the two brothers. Prince William has been entirely shaped by his destiny, a life lived with the constant understanding that personal desires must always be secondary to the survival and dignity of the crown. His focus is entirely on institutional preservation, which makes any perceived betrayal of that institution an unpardonable offence. Prince Harry, conversely, spent his life within the restrictive confines of the royal system without the ultimate responsibility of the throne, a position that allowed him to cultivate a deeply rebellious streak and a profound resentment toward the palace infrastructure. His decision to leave was an attempt to claim absolute personal autonomy, yet the unique tragedy of his current situation is that his identity remains permanently inextricably linked to the very family he chose to abandon. This brings us back to the heart-wrenching revelation that Harry has spent years waiting for a call that never comes, quietly hoping that his brother would find the burden of leadership too heavy to bear alone. It is a profoundly human sentiment, a desire to be needed by the person with whom he once shared an unbroken bond of mutual reliance. Yet, the reality of modern royal life has left no room for such sentimental reconciliations. The institution has moved forward, adapting to a leaner, more focused model that deliberately excludes those who chose to step away. This exclusion has left Harry in a state of permanent professional and personal limbo in California, caught between a world he can no longer access and a commercial entertainment industry that values his royal status far more than his personal philanthropy. The stark contrast between the brothers' lives is further emphasized by their wildly differing approaches to public life and personal privacy. While the Prince and Princess of Wales maintain a highly traditional, carefully managed relationship with the media, protecting their children's privacy with absolute rigidity, the Sussexes have found themselves forced to navigate a much more complicated path. In their efforts to build a sustainable commercial brand, they have frequently blurred the lines between public promotion and personal privacy, leading to a perceived disconnect that has drawn considerable criticism from royal observers. This complicated reality highlights the immense difficulty of attempting to build an independent, commercial identity based entirely on a heritage that has been rejected. The tragedy of this entire saga lies in the realization that there is no simple pathway back to what once was. The decisions made over the last 6 years have set both sides on trajectories that are fundamentally incompatible. As King Charles continues to govern with a focus on immediate family harmony and traditional values, Prince William is quietly hardening the lines of his future administration, ensuring that the boundaries between official duty and personal privilege are absolute. For Prince Harry, the United Kingdom remains a distant memory of safety, community, and structure, a homeland that he deeply misses but can no longer comfortably inhabit. The silence that has settled between London and California is not a temporary pause in an ongoing family dispute. It is the definitive closing of a chapter. It is a powerful and sobering reminder that within the sphere of royalty, the demands of the institution will always supersede the desires of the individual, leaving those who choose to walk away to face the cold reality of their independence alone. The story of these two brothers, once the greatest hope for a modernized and unified monarchy, has become a permanent testament to the heavy price of duty, the destructive power of public recrimination, and the absolute finality of a bond that has been broken beyond repair.